Hello and welcome to all of our Gold participants from around the world. I'm Fiona Lang-Sharp, IBCLC Public Relations Manager and MC for Gold Lactation Online Conference 2016. Well, welcome everybody. I have the pleasure of sitting down with Naomi Bar-Yam today. Welcome, Naomi. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
So Naomi comes to us and she is going to be presenting at the GOLD Lactation Conference 2016, and her presentation is titled Ethical Issues in Human Milk Exchange. What a great subject matter, Naomi. Are you excited?
I am.
Yeah, well, I am too, and I think that you and I were just talking off air here about keeping that this is something that's in the news quite a lot now, which is exactly where we want to keep it because we want everyone to understand and have knowledge in this area. So I think we just can't talk enough about these things. So it's absolutely fabulous that you're going to be presenting on these ethical issues for us so that we have a better understanding and knowledge of what we do when we are questioned as practitioners and how to get this information to our families. So that is just wonderful, and I really appreciate you being here. But let us back up just for a minute because I want you to introduce yourself to our audience so that they can get to know you a little bit. So why don't you go ahead, tell us a little bit about yourself, and tell us how you became involved with milk banks.
I became involved in milk banking. I had been involved in maternal child health for many years. As with a lot of people in maternal child health, I started when I had my own children. And I have four children, my youngest two of whom were born into NICUs. They were not nearly as small as the babies we see now. They were one was what would be called now late preterm, and the other was actually full term, but was what's called small for gestational age. And
Right.
they both started their lives in NICUs. And in each case, they were born 6 years apart on different continents. And in each case, I had more milk than I needed, and the opportunity arose to get that milk to someone else who didn't have
Wow.
enough and who needed it. And that gave me an exposure to what that was about and to sharing milk. And when my youngest was born, we were back in the States, and I put on my maternal child health researcher hat and started looking into what that was about. I did some research on milk sharing, and I also looked into and discovered that there was such a thing as a milk bank.
Wow.
And from there, I started thinking about, gosh, how can we not have one in our area? I'm from the Boston area.
Right.
And how could we not have a milk bank here? And thought about it and thought about it and discussed it in the family, and then called some and emailed some colleagues and said, does anybody else want to work on this? And we had a meeting in, my living room, and the rest is history. That was really 5 years later, we actually got our milk bank started. I mean, it took that long to kind of get up and running. But that was really how it started for me.
Oh, it's such a wonderful story, and I was just reflecting on thinking about, I can visualize the things because I've been there, being in those NICUs. But you said you had babies in different continents as well, where so you've had quite the diversity, I imagine, have you, in dealing with different NICU situations, even.
Yes, I
Yeah,
have.
that's
Yeah,
amazing. That's
yeah.
amazing. So you definitely have a lot of experience in this area and a lot to share, and I know that's just fabulous. Well, Naomi, I wanted to let you know and our listening audience, we've been talking a lot about this at Gold this year, but this is our 10th anniversary and we're so excited. We've got a lot of fun things coming up, an extension for our conference already. We just can't say enough of how appreciative we are of all of our delegates and, of course, our speakers coming to us. But in that, we have been reflecting a lot in what's been happening in the last 10 years. And so I wondered if you could then exchange with us. What changes have you seen in the lactation field in the last, 10 years? What have you been experiencing?
That's a good question. There are a couple of things that come to mind for me. One of them is, and I think probably the primary one is that with all of the research that's been done, I think the most encouraging thing is that the message is out there to healthcare providers and parents and the community and the society as a whole, at least in the United States, that breastfeeding is a good idea and that breastfeeding is the way babies should be fed. I think
Hmm.
that's probably the most important change that I've seen. I think one of the things that's gone along with that is not something new, but it's manifesting in a new way, and that is breast milk as a commodity, as
Hmm.
a thing to be exchanged and as a thing to be sometimes bought and sold.
Hmm.
And that is something that brings with it whatever brings with it some health concerns, but also brings with it ethical concerns. And that's what we'll be talking about, is really what are those concerns. And I think the last thing that I don't know if this is the last 10 years, but surely since my kids were little,
Hmm.
is the sense that it's not possible to have a baby and feed a baby, even breastfeed a baby, without lots and lots of equipment. I feel
Hmm.
very old when I was, I mean, my oldest is 30. And when I was breastfeeding my baby, I plugged her in. That was how we fed her.
Right.
There were pumps, but it wasn't, you didn't have to have a pump in order to have a baby.
Right.
And I think in this country, that's become sort of, it's just assumed that you need all kinds of equipment in order to have a baby. And
Sure.
I think that's important, but I also think there's something missing
Yeah.
that has its problems as well.
Yeah, in so many ways, it seems like we've moved leaps and bounds forward, just in the fact that we can have these conversations, we're talking about it, the consumer, the mothers are putting the demand on that they want to breastfeed, we're moving ahead in those areas, but yet there's still this offset of, all the things that now you might need, and there isn't a mother who, isn't pregnant and has her baby shower and is saying, I wonder if I should ask someone to buy me a pump or other equipment that that we might need. And I absolutely too can concur with you. My eldest is 25, and pumps weren't something that you could even purchase well. In those times. I mean, even 25 years ago, it was a huge expense. It wouldn't have been something that I would have had on my list for sure. So, in that way, things have really changed for better and worse in some areas. So now I guess we're trying to move forward, Naomi, of trying to get these things organized for our families, right?
Right, right,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's awesome. So, lastly, I want to ask you, Naomi, not giving away too much of your presentation, just a little snippet again, but to invite our delegates to come, what are you most looking forward to sharing with them?
I think the most important thing that I would like to both communicate and really open conversation about in this talk is the different forms of milk exchange that there are, and the what each of those forms of milk exchange brings to the table.
Mm,
Each of them has positive things, and each of them has ethical things that we need to be aware of. And I think that's the most important thing that I would like to kind of bring out, but also again to really encourage some conversation about.
sure, sure. Well, I wish I could continue this conversation. I feel like I'm eager just to learn and know more and exchange those views with you, Naomi, but we best not give too much away, and I want you to come back and do your full presentation when we have our live audience. So thank you so much for sitting down with me today and just chatting about these things. It's been great.
A pleasure. I'm looking forward to it.
As we are too. So don't forget, everyone, we have Naomi Bar-Yam, and she's going to be speaking to ethical issues in human milk exchange at the GOLD Lactation Online Conference 2016, celebrating our 10th anniversary. Thanks for joining us today, and have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone. Bye-bye for now.